Hi, human beings.
Can you smell our coffee breath?
It tastes so good. Shane makes the most exquisite coffee
Cheers.
on this Monday morning.
I feel like I woke up in a different time zone.
Well, we went through quite a rich ritual of the Beltane nature yesterday.
Indeed.
If you're popping on, please say hello so we can know who you are and feel your energy in the space. It's Carmen. Hi. So Shane and I haven't done a video in a while. And for some context, for those of you who don't know, Shane and I collaborate together in these intimacy gatherings, these intimacy events that we hold on the big island of Hawaii called Intimacy Energetics Gatherings. And it's fun because it sounds like Shane is also going to start holding monthly men's circles. And I'm holding monthly women's circles as well, along with these in-person all-gender gatherings to, what would you say that we're doing?
Well, I keep using the word practice. Because I got to tell you, without the practice, my self-awareness goes down. Mm-hmm. And that's about as short and sweet as I could possibly be.
Mm-hmm. I like that because to me, I see relationship and sex and intimacy as a really beautiful spiritual practice because it allows us to work with all of this energy, all this spiritual energy, all this amazing life force energy, and then ground it into how I'm channeling that energy through my bodies and choosing to relate with it with other people.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of energy on this island.
This island sure is full of it.
And the thing is, we can, I was going to say make mistakes, but I'm not going to, it's not mistakes. But I think that a lot of what we're all doing is we're learning basically how to know what it is that we really deeply want in intimacy, love, sex, and human connection, and how to go about asking for it and pursuing it and receiving it without hurting ourselves or other people in the process. Hi, Allie.
Right.
And this idea of practice as opposed to, oh shit, I fucked something up and now I'm going to go into an isolated shame spiral where
Right.
I'm no longer worthy of any type of like love in my life anymore, as opposed to we're coming together and we're practicing.
Yeah. So that's what I really love to do anyway. The idea of practice makes perfect. So, yeah, it's not like we're out excusing mistakes or whatnot, but we are learning and growing together. So, you know, the idea of perfect is we're already perfect. And it would be nice to know that my self-awareness and your self-awareness is at a higher level when we decide, when we choose to be physically, emotionally, spiritually connected.
Yeah. And to me, what that really means is that in that, it's like, it's a choosing, because I don't have to cultivate greater self-awareness. I could just continue to act as though I'm an island in an ocean, which is ironic because we are on an island in an ocean.
Yeah.
But I could continue to act as though the way that I act around other people doesn't impact anyone else. I don't have responsibility. But the thing is, especially because we live on an island, it's so amplified, where to me, self-awareness means I'm also aware that how I relate with you as a human, how I relate with you as a brother, how I relate with you as a man, especially if you and I are exploring sensual, erotic intimacy, has an impact on the whole.
Or a chicken walks in the house.
There's a chicken that just walked into the house.
Don't go anywhere. You keep talking.
So to me, this self-awareness means I'm aware that, and especially, let's just take it in the context of community. Let's say that the world is one large community, and how I act in relation with one person impacts the ripple. It impacts the whole. So the level of my devotion to, like, I love you as a human being on this path. I know that you are healing from wounds and traumas of disconnection, just as I am. So the level of self-awareness of, like, I want to be aware of that and be an ally to you in this healing process, and actually make myself available to feel uncomfortable things that if I didn't care about you and I wasn't operating from the context of that self-awareness, it would just be easier to not stay present for the impact, you know, and wheeling this into the context of the benefits of pacing in sex and intimacy and what that means.
Well, we're going to attract, regardless of whether you're aware of it or not, we are going to attract whatever it is that we need.
Yes.
And sometimes when we're faced with those things, we want to be in denial. So I could talk all day about that and the 6 core wounds that the gene keys talk about.
Yeah.
But we all have core wounds and we're all working on our healing. So you will attract anything and everything that you need to heal. And sometimes that might look a little sloppy.
Yes. And having context for that. Yay, thank you for being here, y'all. And that's one of the things that I'm really loving about getting into the gene keys and the Venus sequence in particular is that it's really drawing attention to that it's the relationships that especially have like high charge to them, that have a chemistry to them, an energy to them where you feel it, there's a spark, that we can often associate with, oh, there's sexual chemistry here. This means that I need to explore sex with this person.
Just you saying it got my skin going. Just you talking like that got me charged.
You know, and it's like, even like for the relationship that I have with you, like me and Shane have known each other for 4 years now. And at the beginning, I mean, I still feel like that energy is still there with you and I. It's just, it's become more and more its authentic form. Like I felt a very strong like charge and attraction to you, and that created a connection between us, but we never actually consummated that charge in the conventional sex. Like he and I have never had sex, and yet there is such a deep chemistry that births in so many beautiful forms, that if he and I had jumped into having sex with each other, taking to me kind of most obvious, oh, there's energy here, let's fuck each other.
Right.
Let's go into an experience that inherently is going to amplify and make more likely to bring up all of our core wounds, all of our past relational traumas, making it even easier for distortion and projections to come in, because that's what happens in sex. That doesn't mean that's always what's going to happen in sex, but there's so much sexual wounding that has to do with sexual in the sense of like the deepest, most essential, vulnerable aspects of who we are is the expression of our sexuality. And there's so much wounding around abandonment and violation, not being chosen, that to open into that field with another person, especially if we're not operating from a devotion to self-awareness of like, I know that in choosing to come into this sexual experience with you, that some of our shit is going to come to the surface. And that if I'm saying yes to engaging in like the juicy bits with you, I'm also saying yes to holding space for whatever karma, whatever healing is available in this connection. Because to open that space, but not be committed to the healing and the integration that wants to arise within it, can actually exacerbate trauma.
Oh, it will.
And potentially set you way farther back on the path than if you just hadn't done the thing.
Right. Because, I mean, you're getting super intimate, even if you're only making love or fucking one time. So if something majorly impactful comes up for one of you and you're around each other, then what?
That totally depends on, and this is where like the interesting thing of responsibility that comes up, and where I believe a lot of the wounding, like a lot of our work is around healing intimacy dynamics between men and women. And there's that fine line of where like my responsibility to you as a sister in your healing as a man versus, I think for a lot of people, it's the fear of codependency.
Right.
The fear of being obligated to do work for you that I don't even see you doing for yourself. And the fear of commitment and the projections around what commitment. I believe there's a lot of detangling and like de-tabooifying that needs to occur around the word commitment because of how it's been linked with control in the past. Because if I'm not committed to you as like a human being who, if I'm choosing to engage in sexual intimacy with you, like there needs to be a commitment of care there. That doesn't mean that I'm trying to control you or lock you down or things of that nature, but there's an invitation into a deeper level of care and healing and holding, which I think is an edge for some people.
Well, it is, because that means we have to be friends.
Yeah. Brothers before lovers.
Brothers and sisters, that's for sure. It's the foundation for connection. You know, self-awareness can also be a partnership too. And if it's not based in sex only or rushing to sex, then, you know, creativity might be born. There might be more desire for creativity. If you're rushing for the bullseye, which, I mean, I oftentimes feel the rush to the bullseye. I really do, and there's so much reward in romance and passion and sex and that rich, raw, vibrational connection. You know, that deep energy that just gets our whole body activated
In the moment.
in the moment.
But
Right.
you know, for this one is a big thing, because if you're tuning into this and you care at all about what you're creating in the world, if you care as a human being about the clarity of your creative channel, your ability to fulfill your destiny or birth creative visions into the world, how you are engaging in your sexual intimacy and the level of consciousness that you're bringing into it is going to deeply impact your ability to channel your creativity into your work, into your purpose. It's going to impact your ability to manifest abundance, receive in all its forms. And it is so deeply important that we start realizing that sex goes with the enmeshments, the leaks in our energetic container and how we hold our creative energy when we're not being intentional. Goes way beyond the experience of sex just in that moment.
There's habits that are created from, you call it hookup culture. There's habits that are created that we're not aware of. That's also why I like to say self-awareness. Because when we're practicing these things, when we're playing the relational games, what happens is you start to uncover these habits, these unconscious habits that we all have or can have. And you see yourself a little bit and you're like, I was scanning the room. Oops. That means I am surface level connecting, which is okay. It's okay, because when that surface level habit comes up, you see yourself and it's fine. And then you want to then deepen your invitation, your openness, your ability to give and receive signal to each other. It's not just visual stimulation.
Yeah.
I'm open for connection. I'm open for conversation.
Yep. And just the awareness that if, like what you were talking about, scanning, like when you go into a room, like for us on Big Island of Hawaii, dance is a major place that people connect in large groups. And just feeling in of like, based upon how you're scanning at a dance or at a gathering, it's like we are a vibrational match for whatever energy we are putting out into a space. which means that if we are in kind of a surface level seeking energy, and what I mean by that is we're not tapping into our deeper soul essence, that deep embodied place of magnetism where we can attract the highest aligned connections, and we're up in kind of scanning, which ultimately is coming from a place of not fully knowing our worth, not fully being anchored into our wholeness. That's also what we are going to attract into our field energetically. So it's important to be aware of that from a place of taking responsibility for the experiences that we attract into our life.
I also want to correct myself if I feel like I'm taking from the room. I like to give to the room.
Yes.
And in order to give, you got to check yourself with, am I attached to an outcome? Am I aware of those outcomes that I want? And just being aware of them allows you to correct.
Yep.
Okay, I'm feeling like I'm attached to something more. And just having the awareness, which is why I love the intimacy energetics. We play these connection games, and things that you weren't even aware of for years come up, and you see yourself in such a beautiful way too, because no one's gonna forgive you like you can. And
it helps to be surrounded by people who are like deeply compassionate
Yeah.
and seeing all of our like sneaky tendencies in deeply loving and approving ways.
yes,
And the thing is, it's like ultimately we all need to find our reason why it's worth it to us to let go of kind of like the surface level quick fixes, because really it doesn't make sense that through Shane choosing, rather than looking at life as what can I get from this experience, like what can I give, and how that's actually going to attract more receiving and like the ability to actually truly be nourished by our experiences, that to actually shift into, I care more about the good of the whole than my own personal agenda, and that through that shift, I'm actually going to get more of what I want.
that's right. What is that kids movie that I just saw with Satya? Oh my God.
I don't know.
Something about the bad wolf or some bad guys. Some of these kids movies, they really hit home because they have that magnetic example. And just while you were speaking right now about gifting and giving and attracting from that place, this kids movie really hit home. And being able to share from that place is important too, because if you're out there trying to take, whether you're aware of it or not, if you're attached to the outcome too, you might miss some details in your connection. And if that high energy, if that high vibration connection, that very physical connection thing is happening, and you miss some of those details, and you continue to go through with whatever it is that you were going to do,
Yeah.
I don't like to say walk of shame, but you might have it.
Walk of shame, or like the walk of harm.
Yeah, the walk of harm.
Like just drawing it back to the topic of pacing and sex and intimacy. And I just want to clarify the seeking energy, the agenda, it's beyond gender.
Yeah.
We all do it. We all have our own agendas that we bring into relationships. They still exist for me. Shane might say he doesn't count.
I have them.
Yes, them too. But when we come in with agenda, and I would say this, I call this the pursuit of sensation at the expense of connection.
Right.
So as a woman, if I'm coming in with the intention that I don't care who this man is, I want to make him my partner.
Oh.
And I'm gonna be a yes to sex so that I can make this man my partner. Or as a man, if you want to get the thing in the hole, get the pole in the hole, honoring Beltane, acknowledging that if we are coming in with the agenda to connect sexually before actually deeply caring and valuing like the feeling of safety and honoring of who the person is on a soul level, we are very likely to cause harm to ourselves and harm to the other. And to act as though this isn't true, or to choose not to embody the level of consciousness where we're taking responsibility for perpetuating trauma through unconscious sexuality, we are causing harm. And one of the reasons I want to be having these conversations with Shane more regularly is because we need more commitment to this embodiment of consciousness. The way that sexual wounding and trauma is directly correlating with so much of the destruction and chaos and imbalances of power on global, governmental, political violence, it's connected. And we are being invited into realizing how every intention, every energy, every thought, every agenda that we bring into something as simple as a crush is connected to a paradigm rooted in coercion, domination, manipulation, or power over, versus a paradigm rooted in compassion and interconnection and deep. It's like, I'm not going to take another step forward unless I know all of you and all of me is here.
Help me find the words for this too. So, of course, I'm a conspiracy theorist, and I could talk all day about these things. So as an example, there seems to be an agenda out there that is to keep us apart. Whether I could go down the rabbit hole or not is irrelevant. There's these much larger scenarios out there. Let's say it's screen actors. Let's say it's court cases of celebrities that keep us distracted, where we put our blame and victimhood and all of those stories and the power in those stories outside of ourselves and our very interpersonal relation, and we put it on them. We say it's all their fault, right? Look at the agenda that is oppressing us, and then we still hurt each other.
Yes.
So what I want is, and it's so devaluing, in my opinion, to do that too. So maybe I haven't found the right words to explain what I'm talking about, but between us as friends, as a whole, our cohesiveness is so important that we need not be distracted by these conspiracies, these much larger scenarios that we already know. We already understand that there's an us against me versus you agenda. We already get that. How do we heal that? In our day-to-day interpersonal relating.
Yep.
Me to you.
Yep.
I'm here. I'm showing up to heal. I will not allow myself to be distracted. I will not devalue what has been done to you by talking about all of these things.
Yep. And you also aren't going to you're not devaluing yourself as a man because you are prioritizing what has happened to me as a woman. It's not your healing, your trauma's not more meaningful than mine.
Right.
It's like this willingness to simultaneously surrender. We have to both surrender. Men and women need to both choose to surrender to, I know I'm hurting, I know you're hurting, I am willing to do my work to not be in reactivity and wounding or victimhood in relation to where your wounding takes over. I'm committed to doing my work and doing my best to not take things personally, so that you as a man, if you do something out of wounding that triggers my wound, rather than going into that feedback loop, I'm going to do my best through my actions, through my energy, through my words, to let you know I'm actually a woman you can trust.
Yes. Ugh.
Which requires us to not to choose, it's one of the 4 agreements from Don Miguel Ruiz, to not take things personally. One of the few either ors that I would, because everything's paradox, but I would say you can either blame other people,
Yes,
or get what it is your soul truly wants. To me, blaming other people, and this isn't invalidating your hurt. This isn't invalidating experiences where you have been a victim or where you have been wounded. But if we're attached to making the problem outside of us, we are only going to have surface level nourishment available to us. And despite how many times we say we want the deeper thing, we want to be met, we want to be honored as the king, queen, god, goddess that we are, as long as there's something in me that's more attached to being right than humbling myself, taking radical ownership for how I created the experience and surrendering into love, I'm never going to have the thing that my soul deeply desires. And I'm all in for being available to what my soul deeply longs for. And ironically, it requires me to let go of everything that I think I need to hold on to. Maybe not everything, but it's completely counterintuitive in my mind.
and I don't know about you, but it sure seems like the world is experiencing this. I don't know, we can call it, before we were talking about empaths. It seems like now, in this world 2.0, we are all empaths. We are all such
I want to be more sensitive than you.
We are all such highly sensitive and aware beings. And now, with all of that awareness, the
Chicken's in the room.
Get out of here!
I want to show you that there's a black chicken named Francis in the house eating cat food right now.
No, I put up the cat food.
Oh, good. She's just wanting it to be there. Anyway.
We are so available for all of this healing. I mean, I've never felt so aware. Not only aware, but actually committed to the healing, committed to showing up, and the sensitivity is a siddhi now versus a shadow.
Yes.
Like I'm not afraid to feel the things. I'm welcoming them because I know you're there for me.
I am, because I'm there for myself. I'm not going to leave myself. And because I'm not going to leave myself, I can actually hold you.
Yeah.
So, cycling this all around, because I feel like we're getting to a juicy spot. So the thing that I want to say is, what if you only had sex with people who you genuinely felt safe with? Meaning you actually feel safe, like in a sexual experience, that if you felt like there were deeper emotions that were coming up, that you would actually feel safe for them to come up, that you actually trust this person to be able to hold you in that, right? Like, what if that was the baseline? I'm only going to have sex with the person who I'm also willing to take off my emotional armor and not just my physical clothes with. That simple barometer would change the game.
Yeah. And think about that. I mean, I love this. I mean, I love all the forms of sexuality, trust me. But that spiritual connection,
Spiritual intimacy.
where you blast into tiny particles. You don't hear, see, feel anything. You're like in the most amazing nothingness, that everything is complete and total sensation. Like, so, who you're connecting with could maybe like have a deep breath, and that could bring you to the brink. And you seem in such perfect rhythm, in perfect harmony, that you you'll make an accidental noise and be like, what was that?
Yep.
Oh, I'm in a body. I have a body.
Yep.
And that kind of magic, that kind of connection, you can make the world's dreams come true in.
Yep. And, it makes me think of the gatherings that Shane and I are holding of, the intimacy energetics gatherings, which happen the third Thursday of every month at Sundari Gardens. And then you're starting to do the men's circles and I'm doing the women's circles. I feel like when we think about how to open up into sex, we think like, oh, let me go to a BDSM class or some type of kink class. But to me, to be able to open up into the spaces of divinely embodied sexual and ecstasy that Shane was speaking to a bit, it actually requires us to start at like deeply subtle energetic layers of sensitivity. It actually, the spaces that Shane and I are creating are actually about coming into very deep contact with how you actually feel on a moment-to-moment basis in an interaction between two people, and noticing all the places where you may or may not actually be abandoning yourself or violating your truth in subtle ways in order to make a connection stay. And the sacrifice of that, it's actually, so many of us are walking around dissociating from our bodies because of such a long experience of not wanting to feel the trauma of that violation of self over and over again, that it doesn't matter how much sex we have. Even if you have a physical orgasm, the thing that we're actually deeply, our soul is wanting, but keeps seeking in these surface level connections, until we really slow down and start experiencing the sexuality of just being truly present with another person and being willing to resensitize our body and feel everything. It doesn't matter how much seeking or how much artful agenda or manipulative, seductive prowess we have. We're never going to be nourished.
And let me mention too, there's another aspect of that as a man I can speak of. When you're unaware that you're longing for connection, and you begin to feel that pain, we can easily turn cold. And when you turn cold, not only do you make yourself unavailable for the deeper connection, sort of by proxy, on accident, that means then you're only available for surface level connection.
Yep.
And it's a habit that men have. I get emotional just thinking about it, because I was literally 20 minutes ago talking to a very good friend of mine who has been out of relationship for a while and really wants one. And he was sharing having gotten to a dark place. And whether we're aware of it or not, if we go long periods without connection like that, the real rich, intimate connection, we can feel pain. And as men, it's habit to turn cold so that we can show up for all of our functions in our day-to-day. Yeah. Because we don't want to be clouded with our lack.
And that can be heartbreaking.
It is.
For a woman, for Arielle Rebecca Brown, and what I've experienced through other women as well, that can be heartbreaking to feel that disconnect. And that's where this piece comes in of like, when I experience that in a man, where we've shared sexual intimacy and then whatever emotions arise cause the man to disconnect or become cold in some way. A big place of growth for me has been noticing where that man's reaction will want to create a reaction in me of feeling hurt, feeling rejected, which could easily spin me into becoming disconnected from myself or my own sense of worth, because that's the trauma pattern.
Right.
And then if I go into that place of making myself small and making his actions mean something about my worthiness,
Right.
then one, I'm affirming to him that that was the right thing to do, because now I'm acting like a crazy woman, a wounded crazy woman. And just getting to this place of, I'm just going to do my best to love this man anyway. Like the deeper, just like, I love you as a human. And I'm going to hold myself here and love myself here because I want to be a safe space.
Otherwise, it seems like we're just filling in the blanks, where you're reaching because you don't know, because of the lack of connection. You're reaching into the abyss of complete and total unawareness. Not only that, the inspiration for that was the wound.
And it just requires so much self-love.
Yes.
I feel like I have a client arriving soon, so I want to start to wrap this up. But to me, like where I want to like bring it to is what's been so healing for me, because I have been navigating like these deeply rich kind of like intimate dynamics with men lately. And what I've noticed is there can be this inclination when we're in that space to want to gravitate towards the energy of the man when there's uncertainty and insecurity. And connecting with my sisters, like actually connecting with my gender to be held in this, has been so deeply affirming, and not from a place of shit talking, from a place of holding each other and like reminding us of each other's power. So inviting the men who are drawn to this conversation to like, what would it actually be like to be held by your brothers in this, and sisters as women.
And that's where we're at.
Yeah.
I love you.
I love you too. Mwah. We'll post some links in the comments below to some of the circles that are coming up, or you can just PM Shane or I if you are on the Big Island and are curious to drop into these intimacy gatherings that we're speaking about.
Thanks for watching, everyone.
Aloha.
Aloha.
Share with someone who should see this.
Yes.
I love you. Aloha.